Every day, someone tests your boundaries. A colleague undermines your work with a smile. A friend guilt trips you into sacrificing your time. A partner weaponizes your vulnerability against you, and you feel it. That familiar tightness in your chest, that voice whispering you're not strong enough to push back. You've been taught that strength means aggression. That power requires domination. But what if the most terrifying force in any room isn't the loudest voice, but the one that cannot be moved? What if true power isn't about breaking others, but becoming unbreakable yourself? Friedrich Nietzsche spent his life studying human weakness, not to exploit it, but to transcend it. He watched as society mass-produced fragile minds, people who crumbled at the first sign of conflict, who needed constant validation to feel real. He saw how modern comfort had become a prison, how the fear of discomfort had made us slaves to other people's opinions. Man is something to be overcome, he wrote. Not destroyed, not conquered. Overcome. But overcome into what? Look around you. We live in an age of psychological fragility. One harsh comment sends us spiraling for days. One rejection makes us question our entire worth. We refresh our phones desperately, hunting for approval like addicts hunting for a fix. We've become so psychologically porous that other people's emotions flood straight through us, drowning out our own voice. You know this feeling. When someone's mood hijacks your entire day, when their disappointment feels like your failure, when their anger makes you scramble to fix something that was never broken. You've been programmed to be permeable, to let everyone else's reality override your own. But what would happen if you simply stopped? Nietzsche called it becoming who you are, not who they want you to be, not who you think you should be. Who you are, beneath the people-pleasing, beneath the masks, beneath the fear. He tells the story of the camel, the lion, and the child. The camel carries everyone else's burdens, saying yes to every demand, bending its back until it breaks. This is most of humanity, obedient, accommodating, slowly dying under the weight of other people's expectations. But some camels transform. They become lions. They learn to say no. They develop what Nietzsche called a sacred no, the ability to reject what doesn't serve them, to establish boundaries that others find uncomfortable. The lion terrifies people not through aggression, but through its refusal to be tamed. Yet even the lion must transform once more. Into the child, not weak, but sovereign. The child creates its own values, plays by its own rules, remains untouched by the world's attempts to define it. This is the ultimate terror to those who need you weak. Someone who has become, psychologically, self-sufficient. The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe, Nietzsche warned. If you try it, you will be lonely often, and sometimes frightened. But no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself. Here's what they don't tell you about mental strength. It's not about becoming harder. It's about becoming more real. When you stop shape-shifting to meet everyone's expectations, when you stop apologizing for taking up space, when you stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you, something shifts. You become solid in a world of smoke, and this solidity terrifies people. Why? Because you become a mirror. Your stillness reflects their chaos. Your clarity exposes their confusion. Your refusal to engage in emotional manipulation reveals how much they depend on it. You become dangerous not because you attack, but because you cannot be controlled. Think about the last time someone tried to guilt you into something. Remember that twisted feeling in your stomach, that urge to cave just to make the discomfort stop. That's your programming activating. Years of being taught that your worth depends on keeping others comfortable, that love means self-sacrifice, that boundaries equal selfishness. But Nietzsche saw through this con. He recognized that most morality is just weaponized weakness, people who lack the strength to pursue their own path, demanding that you abandon yours. They call it virtue. He called it the revenge of the powerless. The higher we soar, he wrote, the smaller we appear to those who cannot fly. This is why building an unshakable mind isn't about arrogance or cruelty. It's about developing what Nietzsche called amor fati, love of fate. Not just accepting what happens to you, but embracing it as fuel for your becoming. Every attack, every betrayal, every attempt to diminish you becomes raw material for your transformation. The manipulator's words lose their sting when you stop needing their approval. The guilt tripper's games fall flat when you accept that their emotions are not your responsibility. The intimidator's threats dissolve when you realize that the only power they have is what you give them. But here's the brutal truth. Most people will hate you for this. Your strength reminds them of their weakness. Your freedom highlights their chains. Your refusal to play their games ruins the game for everyone. So how do you build this terrifying strength? Not through motivational quotes or morning affirmations. Nietzsche's path is darker, more honest. First, you must embrace what he called going under. You have to descend into your own darkness, face the parts of yourself you've been running from. Your anger, your selfishness, your hunger for power. These aren't flaws to be fixed. They're forces to be integrated. The person who terrifies others isn't the one who hides their shadow, but the one who has made peace with it. Second, you must practice disappointing people. Start small. Say no to the favor you don't want to do. Let someone be upset without rushing to fix it. Watch how the world doesn't end. Watch how they survive their own emotions. Each disappointment you allow is a chain you break. Third, develop what Nietzsche called the great health, not just physical, but psychological vitality. This means choosing growth over comfort every single time. It means seeking out what challenges you rather than what coddles you. It means building your strength not against others, but against your own weakness. But perhaps most importantly, you must learn to be alone. Not lonely, alone. Comfortable in your own company. Clear in your own thoughts. The person who can sit with themselves without distraction, without validation, without escape. This person cannot be controlled. They have found the only approval that matters. The man who does not wish to be part of the masses need only stop making things easy for himself, Nietzsche wrote. Let him follow his conscience, which calls out to him, be yourself. All that you are now doing, thinking, and desiring is not really yourself. This is the paradox of true strength. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need to. When you walk into a room carrying your own gravity, people feel it. When you speak from your own truth rather than their expectations, they hear it. When you move through the world without apology, without explanation, without the desperate need to be understood, you become what Nietzsche envisioned, a force of nature in human form. You become someone who cannot be manipulated because you want nothing from them, cannot be intimidated because you've already faced your worst fears, cannot be broken because you've already been shattered and rebuilt yourself from the pieces. This is what terrifies people. Someone who has moved beyond their reach. Someone who has transcended the invisible chains that keep most of humanity tethered to each other's approval. Someone who has discovered that the only prison that ever existed was the one they built in their own mind. But remember, this path isn't about becoming inhuman. It's about becoming more human than society allows. It's about reclaiming the wildness that was trained out of you, the authenticity that was shamed into hiding, the power that was labeled dangerous because it couldn't be controlled. The world needs more people who terrify in this way, not through cruelty or violence, but through the simple act of being unapologetically themselves, through the courage to stand still while others demand you dance, through the strength to remain whole while others insist you break yourself into digestible pieces. One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star, Nietzsche promised. So let them call you difficult. Let them call you intense. Let them call you too much. These are the complaints of people who need you small to feel big, who need you weak to feel strong, who need you lost to avoid finding themselves. Your strength will disturb the comfortable and comfort the disturbed. It will repel those who profit from weakness and attract those ready for their own transformation. It will close doors that needed closing and open ones you didn't know existed. This is the price of psychological sovereignty. This is the cost of an unshakable mind. Not everyone will love who you become when you stop asking permission to exist. But you were never born to be loved by everyone. You were born to be yourself. And that, perhaps, is the most terrifying thing of all.